seamless. So for the next part of this training, I'll be demoing how to use Oligrapher, which is our power mapping data visualization tool. So currently I am on the littlesis.org landing page. If you're new to just LittleSys and the work that we do generally, the littlesis.org database is a research database and platform that works like a wiki. So you sign up just similar like you would with Wikipedia. You create a free account and you can contribute content. The database is really focused on tracking relationships between powerful people and powerful organizations. It's right in the name. Little Sis is the idea is the opposite of Big Brother. So Big Brother is watching down. If we think of powerful forces looking down on the people, Little Sis is the people watching back up to the powers that be. So that is our database. And I would definitely encourage folks to check out on the new Map the Power toolkit. There is a training there that will walk through that for you. Today, we're going to be talking about a complementary tool to the database that we have that is our power mapping tool that can take information in the database or just research that you have and turn it into really useful visualizations. So if you're new to LittleSys, maybe let us know in the chat if you've used LittleSys before, but you're interested in learning something particular, let us know too while we're walking through here. So to get us started, when you're starting to create a map, first things first, you're going to want to create an account on LittleSys. Create an account, you get an analyst name, it's free to do. You have access then to the LittleSys database, you have access to Oligrapher. I am logged into my account here. You can see my username is my last name, Armstrong. You can make it pretty much whatever you want. And so if I am going to start creating a map, so this is just the landing page on LittleSys, the research database. You can see here we have my recent edits to the database, some maps that I've made, some updates we put up on the side here. If you're interested in looking through some of the maps that have been made, if you hit explore and hit maps, you can see a nice selection of different maps. This isn't all the different maps that are in the database, but sort of just like a selection of different maps that have been featured here to kind of show how the database works and how different people are using the mapping tool in particular. But what we're going to do today is walk through how to actually create one of these things and use this tool. So to get started, what you want to do is go over to add, just like you would if you were adding something to the research database, but instead of adding an entity, we're going to be adding a map. So you click on map. And that is going to take you to your blank editing page. And so what I'm going to do kind of like a cooking show type thing here, show you what the end product is supposed to look like, and then we'll see if we get there through the training. So while we're here together, we're going to recreate this map that I made earlier today that's just showing very simply Gregory Hayes, who's the CEO of Raytheon Technologies, a major defense contractor, who Gregory was recently bragging on an investor call about all the money they were about to be making due to all of their bombs being dropped all over Gaza. So we're going to create a map showing who exactly is benefiting from this effort from Raytheon, and then doing a little bit of power mapping of what are some of Gregory Hayes' connections and who is he connected to. So this is what we're going to be ending up with at the end of our time walking through today. So going back to our blank editing page here, first things first, you'll notice right at the top is going to say this is by your analyst name. It has there, it's going to be timestamped. You can put a title, you can put a subtitle. You'll notice on the left-hand side, this is sort of like your user toolbar, and I'll go through how you'll use each one of those things. But first things first, we'll say RTX is the stock price and also, or the stock ticker, and also what they've rebranded as. So it's RTX, and we'll call this just demo map, so we know. So for folks who are interested, much of this information is going to be based off of this very recent post from some of our contributing writers at Little Sis. Manira can put the link in the chat there for you to check out. But Raytheon and Gregory Hayes were sort of featured in that, and that's inspiring this map that we're about to do. So first things first, like I said, my goal with this map is having, read this story about Raytheon standing to reap all of this profit, and then reading this article that our colleagues wrote, I would like to create a map that is showcasing those particular items from those stories. So what I'm going to do first is add Raytheon and add Gregory Hayes to this map, because they're sort of our main characters here. So what I'm going to do is click on this circle here where it says add node. And so what this is doing is I'm going to type in, let's type in Raytheon first. So what this is doing is searching the Little Sis database for this particular entity that I am typing in here. And so what I can do is add Raytheon. Well, that's like we want Raytheon Technologies. This Raytheon company is a duplicate, I think. All right, Raytheon Technologies is the main one here. And then I also want to add Gregory Hayes, who's the CEO of Raytheon. So what I'm doing here is I'm asking it to pull information that I know exists in the database. In a minute, I'm going to show you don't actually have to use information that's in the database to add it to the map. But in this case, it's already in the database. So what it's going to do is automatically pull in for me all the different connections that Gregory Hayes has to Raytheon. He's worked there for a long time, so he's had a lot of positions. And so it's pulled in all the different positions that are listed in the database. I don't need to see all of this. I really just need to see that he's the CEO. That's like the main connection here. So one thing you can do is you can actually go in and delete any of these. So to delete an item off of your page, so I've added very quickly these couple of nodes, it auto-populated. I can highlight any of the edges, that's what we call the little connecting lines, and then just hit delete. And I'm just going to kind of clean up the page here so it just looks a little bit easier to see. Now, in doing this, it doesn't do anything to the database. This is all just to make my map more legible. All of that data remains in the database, no impact at all. So we got the CEO position there, got that cleaned up. And I want to add in this quote here that he has said, because I think that that's really relevant to helping my reader understand what this map says. And so, I've used this circle piece here to add nodes. If you go one spot below, you can hit add text. And so when you click add text, it's automatically enabled, and you'll see this little kind of crossbar thing here. And that's gonna let you put the text wherever you want to put it. So I'm going to put it at the top of the map here, and it's opening this new caption box. So what I'm going to do is go back to this article on Business Insider, and just grab one of these quotes. These were quotes from a stock, like a earnings call with shareholders back in October 24th of October. All right, so with new caption, I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm just going to put in the quote that I want to highlight. I can change the font, got just a couple of options there. I can bold it. I can make it really big if I want to. But overall, you can add any sort of text here that can be helpful if you're creating a map that's just going to be a visual and you want to put like a quote or something. That's something that you can do there. So I'm putting that kind of right at the top here. So this is sort of the basis for my map. Now what I want to do is add a little bit more. If you look back, let's look back at the kind of like the guide map that I created. I want to add in some of the stuff over on the right-hand side, some of his other connections. So you have a few options to do that. You can add it in one at a time. So for instance, I know that he is a board member at Phillips 66. And so I could go in and add that node in. I'm going to just select it. And because this is in the Little Sis database, it will automatically populate. Now I could do that for a bunch of different connections. If I just know them, or I can like reference the Little Sis database, or what I can do is actually highlight him. And if you see, this little customization box is going to show up. And in this customization box, you can, edit his name. Like say you don't feel like the J is necessary to have in there. If you want to edit the description, the click-through link is just what link it will go to if the reader looks at it. Since this was in the database, it's automatically putting the database link in there. But if you could change this link out to be a news story or something like that, if you wanted, but I digress. With this customization piece at the bottom, you'll see there's this little thing that says add connections. And so what this is doing is allowing me to add any connections that are already in the Little Sis database to my map very quickly. And they're organized by the type of relationship. So you can say we have the categories are positions, education, donation. So like his donation data, we could quickly add in. Any kind of like professional or social interactions that might be there. But what I'm going to do is add in other positions that he might have, because I'm just kind of like building out an understanding of sort of where he operates, who he might be connected to. So I'm just going to add these first couple here. This business roundtable is a really sort of like important place for business executives to kind of hobnob together, cook up different policy priorities. The Kennedy Center in DC, that's a really popular place for a lot of business executives to have directorships and things like that. Being involved in the arts is really popular with really wealthy people, you'll find. And so very quickly, I've added in a few other different connections here. And before we move any further, I want to be sure to point out that while we have a lot of cool functions on this mapping tool that I'll be going through, one thing that we do not have is autosave. So you want to make sure that you are constantly, well, maybe not constantly, but an appropriate amount, saving the map as you go along. And so what it's done here is I click save and it took it to present mode, meaning that like if I was just done right now, I could share this link and share this map. And anyone could see it and click around on it and see the connections that I was highlighting. But I'm not done yet. So what I want to do is click on these three little dots on the right-hand side and hit edit. And it'll take me back to my editing page. All right, so now we have a few more connections in. And now I want to add some things in that aren't in the database. So thus far, we've added in connections that were already existing in the Little Sis database. But the Little Sis database, it's not a database of everything. There's definitely going to be things that you come across that either they don't fit, like it might be an event or something, or it's something that doesn't fit with the database, or it's something that changes quite a bit. So we still want to be able to add this stuff to our map. So what we're going to do now is add, looking again back at our base map here, I want to start adding the stuff that's on the left-hand side. And these are the major shareholders for Raytheon. And so what I want to do is to get this information earlier, I just went to Whale Wisdom. For folks who aren't familiar, Whale Wisdom is a free database where you can, it basically aggregates all the most recent shareholder filings that come in. So you get a sense of which sort of asset managers hold stock, particular stocks. You can look up particular stocks. and just see who like the top shareholders are. It's a really great tool. It's featured in our toolkit. Definitely check it out. But so what I've got here is I have Raytheon's profile page up on Whale Wisdom. I'm going to scroll down here to see the stock list. And so this is just like the base. I believe it is like alphabetically ordered to start, but you can click on any of these rows to order it however you like. So I'm going to do market value. Okay. And so in doing that, I've organized all this data by market value on Whale Wisdom. And what I want to do is take just like the top 3 shareholders here and add it to my map. And so the top 3 shareholders are Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock, each of them huge asset managers. And you can read more about them in that corporate enablers post that I mentioned earlier. So what I want to do now is add these folks to my map and add their connections, the amount of money that they have invested in Raytheon. So let's see. I'm going to go back to my node here. I'm going to add Vanguard. That. I'm going to add BlackRock. BlackRock's a member of Business Roundtable. And I'm going to add, what was it? State Street. Okay. So you can see that the database automatically added some connections that aren't super relevant to what my maps is trying to convey. So I'm going to get that stuff out of here. Again, doesn't do anything to the database, but just cleans up my map so I can have it look a little more organized. Okay. So what you see here is I have added these entities to this map. But the connections that I want to highlight from Raytheon, which we have from this other database, are not in the Little Sis database. And that could be a number of reasons. One, stock prices fluctuate quite a bit. And so having that particular stock price in the database is going to be outdated really quickly. And so it's might be in these cases more appropriate to be able to like represent this on a map where you can edit it a little bit more easily. So what I'm going to do is actually make the connection between Raytheon and these asset managers and then add the data that I want into the edges. So to add a new edge that's not just like auto-populated, you're going to just pick up and grab. So just like if you're using like a touch pad on your computer, just kind of press down and then move the Vanguard group over top of the node that you want to connect it to, in this case, Raytheon. And it will automatically then bounce an empty edge. And so what I want to do now is edit this edge because we want to, someone comes and sees this, they're going to have no idea what I'm getting at here, right? So what I want to do is click on this edge and I get a customization box, just like we did with that other node from earlier. And with this customization box, I want to add in the data that I'm trying to highlight here. So I'm going to go back and see Vanguard. I think in this case, I'm going to do market value. You could choose to highlight whichever piece of data you wanted here, like shares held or something like that. But I'm going to do market data. So I'm going to put that and I'm going to put in shares held. And for the click-through link, which would be essentially my source link, I'm going to link it to this full profile. I could go in and link it to the specific report that it's pulled from, but just for the sake of efficiency here, I'm just going to link it to the profile. So click-through link is the Whale Wisdom link. And here you'll see you have the option to add an arrow showing which way sort of the relationship is flowing. So Vanguard Group has almost, $9 billion in shares held from Raytheon. So I'm going to put the arrow going towards Raytheon. All right. And so just like that, I've created this new edge showcasing for my reader the information that I'm trying to share here. So now I'm going to go through and do that with State Street and with BlackRock, again, dragging over top here, the different nodes. All right, so who is next? State Street was the next. I'm just going to do kind of the same thing here. Sorry, I keep hitting the wrong tab. All right. And shares held. Oop. BlackRock. BlackRock lagging behind with only $7 billion invested. All right. Okay. So now pretty quickly, what I've done here is create that whole left side of this map. So these are, again, big investors in Raytheon that I was hoping to highlight. The idea being that, you know, if Gregory Hayes is correct and Raytheon makes a ton of money, these are the asset managers that are going to benefit the most from all of their restocking and sending weapons to Israel. So we now have that side ready to go. We have a little bit about Gregory Hayes' personal network on the right. Another cool tool, just as we're walking down here, is our interlocks tab. Now, if you're familiar with the Little Sis database, this is a feature of our database that shows common connections between two different entities. So we can also do that on this map. So what I want to do here is, you know, I'm interested in Gregory Hayes' connections, sort of what he's doing in his free time, who he might be hanging out with and sort of influencing him, or that he might have influence over. So I'm actually going to look for interlocks, so connections between the Kennedy Center and the Business Roundtable. Who are some other executives who might be members or directors at one of those two institutions, again, a big policy institution and a big cultural institution, who Gregory Hayes would probably have a lot of connection to. So to use the interlocks feature, it's pretty simple. What you want to do is you just choose one to start with. You're going to kind of ignore this customized node. You'll see here on the left, it says Little Sis node selected 1. You want to select 2. And then the command keys are you hit Command and Shift on your keyboard, and that allows you to select a second node. And so you'll know you've done it right because you'll see Little Sis node selected 2, and you can hit Get Interlocks. And just like with our add connections thing, it's going to give us a list so we can choose. It's not going to automatically populate like everything because that would be a lot for us to have to wade through and delete. So we can just look through this nice list here and see like, okay, I just want to highlight a few, like maybe like finance related connections, since this is a finance related map. So I'm going to add Jamie Dimon. That's a pretty big connection there. And let's say I'll add Steven Schwarzman, another Blackstone Group, CEO of Blackstone Group, another big connection. And this is really just to show that, you know, Gregory Hayes in his connections with the Kennedy Center, with the Business Roundtable, connections that aren't his day job at Raytheon, he has a whole nother network of corporate executives that he may be interacting with. And so this just gives us a little more information about him, sort of like who's in his network, and again, who he might have sort of access to. Great. So our map is really taking shape here. I haven't saved in a while, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save. One last thing I'll show you before we move into taking this map kind of to the next level is that, you know, when I was showing you how to add the edges for Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock, those entities existed in the database already. But what you'll find is that the database is pretty limited in what can be in there. So it's typically individuals or it's organizations. Those are really the two types of entities that you'll find there. You're not going to find things in there like events or something like that, or like a paper or something that's not like a like, again, a person or an organization. And sometimes an event where people show up at and being able to connect those people to that event is an important aspect of power research. But with the mapping tool, we have a little bit more functionality where we can represent things like that, but it's not going to impact the database. And just to be clear, that these edges that I added between Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, and Raytheon, and the data that I added, that does not go back into the database. So it really allows you to create things with your maps that don't impact the database, which has much more stringent sourcing requirements. So what I want to do to show how to add just like a blank node, something that's not in the database, I'm going to just make something up. So this is not a real thing, but let's just say they had like a fancy executive lunch. I'm sure that's what they call it. Oh, they call them luncheons. I forgot. All right, so that is not pulling up anything in the database because it's made up. So what I'm going to do is create new node. And so what that's done is allow me to have this node that I could connect. Let's say Gregory Hayes and Steven Schwarzman went out to lunch and it was fancy. I can connect them to that and have this node essentially represent that event. Again, making this up, don't hold me to it, just for example. And what I can do here then is represent something on this map, again, that's more than just like a connection between a person and an organization, but is something that's happened between two people. And this is a great way, again, to show events that happen. And it doesn't impact the database, but you can then go in, and if I had like a picture that I wanted to include, I could put the image URL there. I can just make it a certain color. We'll make it green. I can go in here. If there's a news story that I wanted to use as the source link for this, I could put that there. Description, put that there. Again, much more functionality and something that you can sort of customize to what you're trying to show to your reader. Okay. I'm actually going to delete this just so that there's not any confusion. But that's just a little bit extra functionality. So what I'm going to do now is hit save, and I'm going to hit present. And if I was done with this map, I could, again, share this link out, and anyone would be able to come through. They'd be able to click through to the different links that are behind the different nodes, like that. So see, I had used whale wisdom for that link, for that edge, and so it took me there. And you are free to share this out. This URL, it lives on the Little Sis database, but you can share out this link. But there is another level of functionality here that I'll show you real quick. And that is being able to turn this from just a straight up map without any sort of annotation to what we call a story map. I'm going to try to do this really quick because I see some activity in the chat. Can't see your chats, but we'll hopefully have some time for Q&A here in a second. So real quick, if I want to take this map and turn it into something that sort of like tells a story or maybe walks a reader through what I'm trying to say here, all I got to do is click. You can click this little icon here. It's the third one down. Oh, I am wrong about that. Fifth one down, annotations. It works basically like creating slides out of this map. So what I can do here is I've created, now on the right, I have my annotations toolbar. I hit add annotation. You have a very basic like title and then text spot. So really quick, let's say I want to add let's just say Gregory Hayes is the exec of Raytheon. Say that's just all I want to say there. So then what I want to do is highlight which pieces of this map I want to be highlighted when that piece of text is showing up. So I want Gregory Hayes, and you'll see here you need to press down your command key, which I wasn't doing, as you go across, and you highlight the nodes and you can highlight the edges. And we'll say, okay, so we'll start there. Let's add another annotation. So say, three big asset managers hold billions in RTX stock. And you could put, more here. So then what I can do is go and say, I want to highlight these folks, Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock, and the money that they've got tied up in Raytheon. See if we can get to do it. There we go. All right. And then let's add one more here, and we'll say Hayes is connected to and we'll say we want to connect him to Steven Schwarzman and Jamie Dimon through their relationships to Business Roundtable and the Kennedy Center. Okay, I think we got it here. All right. So very quickly, I've created like very rough 3 quick slides. I'm going to hit save here. And then now when I go to present mode, my map looks a little bit different. It's not just that image that I had before. Now it's a series of slides that I can walk through. So it's like kicking off right away with this first slide. Gregory Hayes is the executive of Raytheon. The next one is going to show what I had put in about the asset managers. And then the last one on these connections. And so this is like a function that's really helpful, especially if you have a really complex big map and you need to be able to walk your reader kind of like through the map. It allows you to create that big map, but then zoom into smaller pieces of it. So it can be very helpful. Again, those are the 2 main forms that your maps can take, whether we call them like a static map, which is just this image that you see here, or a story map, which includes the slides. I just mainly use titles here, but you can add, there's plenty of space for text on the right-hand side there. So just about done here. I know that was a slow, but also seemingly quick walkthrough. A couple notes on just our settings. So if you go to this little like cog icon here, you have a few ways to interact with the Oligrapher tool. This isn't about editing the map itself, but how you want the map to be accessible. So by default, all of our maps are made public and they are clonable. So that means someone can come and make a copy of your map. So like if you've created something and someone says, okay, I know more that I would like to add to this, and I can use this to not start from square one, they can make a copy. It'll say it's a copy and build off of that map. If you don't want people to be able to do that, no problem, just unclick allow map cloning. If you want it to be private, like you're working on something, you're waiting for your big reveal, set map to private. And I'll show you in a second, you can actually still share it through a specific share link, but that URL will no longer lead anywhere until you come and make it public again. And you have a few other different like function options here. So you can like create it so that your reader, for instance, can move edges and move nodes around on the map while they're not editing the map, but they're able to kind of like play around with the map. You can do all kinds of different things like that. So I'm going to keep it private. One other piece of functionality you have here is if you have a friend, like you're trying to map something, and you're working with someone on it. If they have a Little Sis account, you can add them as an editor to your map, and then you can both do it. But you need to know what their username is. They'll get a notification, and then they'll be able to be added to the map and work on it with you. So that's where you would do that. And then last thing. So say I am now private, like I said, I'm going to hit save. I'm going to go to present. So if I wanted to, let me see, how do I actually, so I would hit share. So again, this will only pop up if you're trying to share your map, but you've set it to private. You'll see this and you click share from those little icons, the little 3 dots there. You'll get this specific link and you can share that with someone and then they'll be able to view the map. But they would not be able to view the map using this URL that's at the top here. You have to have it in public mode for that to be possible. Okay, so I think that's it.